of Brazil. Book 2, Chapter 6. From Bad to Worse. End of July 2006. The World Cup had long been terminated. Unexpectedly, Italy took the title. The teams I had supported were all eliminated in the quarterfinals. Just as unexpectedly, things were developing for me after Neji, who had moved out when I moved in the cell, returned. Allegedly, Ghislaine had to take her back in. All went down the drain. Once again, I was very disappointed when I had to find out that Ghislaine was not different from the others, if not more malicious. First, we got along great. Ghislaine possessed an uncanny resemblance to Michael. Of course, feminine traits, but somehow she gave me motherly feelings, and I saw in her something like a daughter. Only later I had learned that Ghislaine was strongly hooked on cocaine. But after her tuberculosis disease and the resulting hospital stay, before I had moved into her cell, she was willing to fight her drug addiction. I made it my score to support her as best as I could, and to do everything to help her stay clean. So I made her promise me not to touch any more drugs. In return, with my next purchase, I helped her paying a part of her drug debt with a value of 100 reais to help her. Out of sheer gratitude, she fell into my arms and wept. Ghislaine began very much to tell me about herself. I knew she was quite intelligent and could have a future ahead. I made clear to her that she should take the opportunity now to study something she could later use for her life without committing crimes again. On my initiative, she went once a week for drug counseling. The first time I came along and listened to everything. Even for a language course she signed up. Then Neji returned, and the first problems between her and me started. But still Ghislaine vehemently defended me and made clear to Neji to respect me. I tried to clear with Neji in a factual way that she should participate in the monthly shopping for the cell, which involved products for cleaning and washing, etc., because I helped Ghislaine with 100 reais. This ended in hysterical shrieks, which I had to listen to every day from now on. She refused to buy anything for the cell with the remark her things were hers and I could do what I wanted with mine. Okay for me. So I continued sharing my things with Ghislaine and left Neji out. First, Ghislaine joined the game. Unfortunately, Ghislaine came increasingly under the influence of this old mental and drug-addicted woman. More and more of my things disappeared without a trace, and I knew exactly, just like everyone else here, that Neji stole, as she was not only a drug addict, but also a kleptomaniac. All I heard of Ghislaine was, "Leave it." Super. My writing paper, toilet paper, chocolate, cigarettes, cream, shampoo, laundry, everything disappeared and never returned, and I should not say anything. Meanwhile, Ghislaine was back again, full on drugs. Neji organized for her. At first she lied to me, but after I gave it up to control her and talk to her conscience, I couldn't stand any more the stupid, triumphant grin of Neji. She took everything she could get. At first she did it secretly, out of shame towards me, but soon also in my presence. At the same time she began with some snide remarks, and the harassment of Neji was becoming more. Big rows happened now daily. Not long, and Ghislaine asked me to move out, because Raposa would return also, and was going to have her bed back. To watch TV or relaxing was simply not possible anymore. Either this old mad woman screamed around, or a borrowed radio was playing at full volume. In the pavillon, lies were spread about me. I would throw food scraps out the window, never cleaned the cell, never shared my purchases, etc. After the next blitz, the old woman claimed I had given the guards any information, since I always sat in the dining hall and very near the guards. This part was true. I was sitting back again downstairs in the dining hall during my spare time, because I couldn't stand it no longer in the cell. With the rest of the story, this crazy old woman dropped me in life danger if I was suspected as a traitor. That Claudia was trying to find another cell for me was totally in vain. No one wanted a traitor in their cell. Once again, I fell into this deep black hole of depression. It didn't exactly make it better that I did not get a single letter anymore, and Michael just didn't react on my mail. And again, I thought of suicide. What for carrying on? The consulate was simply not able to attend to the only desire I had, the ad, the last straw that had kept me alive. Instead, the staff of the consulate immediately came as a party of 3 for a visit. Long time after the rebellion was over, which showed that people were not even interested in it if the two of us, Germans, Claudia and I, were okay or something had happened to us. It was just before the final of the World Cup. I was so exhausted that I threw my job. The two gentlemen, Mr. Sturm and Mr. Waldmann, in the company of a lady, came just at the right moment. It was quite obvious that the two men were mad at me after I had complained about them to Mr. Schweitzer, the vice-consul. Accordingly, it came to a very ugly clash between me and Mr. Sturm, who finally left the room without saying goodbye, his companion in tow. Before that, he made me write a confirmation that any correspondence to the act, which was still not even placed yet, would be sent to the prison address, because he wanted nothing to do with it. With Mr. Waldmann alone, I turned my anger on him by speaking about his information letter in which he suddenly demanded 15 reais, fare, of each prisoner when he was asked to make shopping. I asked him if this was to be serious and calculated that this was for 12 prisoners, 2 here and 10 in the PE next door, which meant the same distance. 180 reais for just one ride the same way, adding that this was a lucrative side income and well above one tank filling. He turned like an eel, but I waited in vain for a concrete answer. You said yourself once that you don't want it for free and participate in the travel expenses, he defended himself. True, I said it, but it didn't give him the right to enrich himself by us prisoners, who didn't have nothing anyway, and make us bleed even more. Either he did this voluntarily, as he always granted, or he could be paid for by the consulate. But it seemed the best if he stopped it completely. This I said to him exactly that way, and added, to do something out of pure charity is probably not a thing for you, and the consulate should rather spend money on paying you instead of wasting money for something useless like this Germany magazine in its glossy print, sending to us for expensive postage just to have it ending up in the trash because nobody read it anyway. I was really underway and hard to stop, even though I had to hear from him now how ungrateful I was and would appreciate nothing. What was this insensitive man expecting? This visit upset me even more. The only good news about it was that my mother had sent money again, and better still, after my complaint to Mr. Schweitzer, he had transferred the case to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the two men had to refund my money for the unwanted and unnecessary jumbo. Therefore, I was financially pretty well off again. Disappointing was that there was no letter of Michael against my hope. A few days later, I was emotionally able to write a letter to Michael's guardian to ask if my son was still alive, if he was well, and if he reached his class target. I added a letter to Michael himself, but asked the guardian to determine whether Michael wanted to break off all contact with me or maintain it. At the time, this man had assured me that he would keep me informed of everything that affected Michael. This seemed to be forgotten. Everything depressed me so much that I felt like crying all the time. The promise of the director that I could move any time to another pavillon seemed to have been forgotten about. No one helped me to find a new cell, not even the guards. On the contrary, I was given tips that were almost dangerous. For example, a guard advised me to buy the entire cell of Ghislaine. In my desperation, I made Ghislaine this offer. She made a huge thing of it and turned the PCC people against me. The very same day was talk that the big bosses of PCC were called up and informed about me. The PCC would be thinking of a punishment for me. Claudia told me that somebody had given her the hint to warn me. I turned offensive and declared that I made the offer out of desperation, and if they wanted to punish me for it now, I would not care. I wasn't really scared anyway, because supposedly the big boys were too busy with other things. The attacks on public facilities in Sao Paulo continued. I was just hopeless. As the psychological terror in the cell was becoming more unbearable, and I was also very hurt when I looked at Ghislaine, who destroyed herself with the drugs, I just wanted to get out of the cell. Meanwhile, Claudia had changed her mind again after she finally realized that the small South African was just using her, and agreed to move together with me to another pavilion. After a meeting with the director, we were finally promised a reservation of a cell in another pavilion for us. The 1st of August, our move should have taken place. Claudia and I planned our shopping list for our living together, and we already made plans. But shortly before I was accused of Neji, I had injured her with a kick in the head when I was leaving the cell, and thereby had to step over her since she was sleeping on the floor. She even let Claudia feel her bump that I allegedly inflicted on her. I was speechless at so much falsehood. Why they just couldn't leave me in peace. Furthermore, I spent the days until locking time freezing and shivering in the ice-cold dining hall until the 1st of August, to read there or to study Portuguese and Spanish. I used my ways to the library to find out anything about the other pavilions, but nobody could tell me something in which pavilion we would move or whether we would move at all.